You know how I really know that the UFC had the gambling problem? Is that whenever I saw YouTube shorts of someone, those stupid shorts where it's like hiding a Kalshi ad in the middle of it. They're doing that to about like 100 viewers, and like no disrespect to them, stay on the grind. But how you gonna sell your soul for just to advertise to 100 people? You're advertising yourself to get like a little Caesar pizza at best, which doesn't sound too bad right now. So I'm like, Kashi, you know where to contact me. Welcome back to the AMJ channel, and today we're going over UFC Fight Night Medic versus D-Rod, and it is just another strawweight card, Loki. So if you're ready to LARP with me, get ready for a bunch of LARPing. And if you're here to LARP, to pretend you know any of these people, then hit the subscribe button. Really appreciate it. But anyways, we're going on to the first matchup, which is Earls Medic versus Daniel Rodriguez. Okay. Now, Medic coming off of a pretty crazy knockout highlight reel against Neil Magny. Very sad to see Neil Magny's been in the sport for a while. We don't like seeing what is it, veterans getting knocked out. But and Daniel Rodriguez is coming off of fighting off the top bunk, fighting people over who should pick up the soap. But he has been coming off 3 wins, and that's pretty impressive, especially in light heavyweight, or welterweight, my bad. And the last fight was with Kevin Holland. Now, I think you're also gonna win this. Okay, and I'm not gonna go to the straight to the chase. Medic is definitely gonna win this because throughout the last few fights I've seen with Medic, Medic controls the distance pretty well. He's very technical too. And we saw it with D-Rod whenever against Holland. Whenever someone controls the range with him, he will just like rush and try blitz in, hands down, trying to throw bombs. And it did work against Holland, dropping him. But he also got dropped by Holland. It's just like, come on, man. Medic has gotten dropped by like less powerful shots, but I think that I'll also take Medic via knockout. Round two, Daniel's gas tank is pretty questionable, especially with him taking 7 months off. But yeah, I think even with like a full training camp, that he would not beat Medic. So, Medic by second round KO. Now, next up, we have Navajo Sterling versus Jan Blachowicz. Navajo, young prospect, and 3 fight win streak. And Jan coming off of a draw against Guskov. I don't even know what more to say. It's just very sad to see withered Jan. And I'm very sad to say that I think that Navajo Sterling will win. Probably via split decision, I will say that, because people are kind of counting out Jan, his that's, you look at his last 3 fights, it's not that impressive, A draw, loss. That's not impressive. He's still a 43-year-old, but even nowadays, I think he still kind of got it. I mean, he took Alex to a decision, split decision, and gave Guskov some problems. Got a draw, he didn't lose per se. But I think that this will come down to his decision, but I think they'll give the nod to Sterling, especially since he's just such a young prospect. I will say the only caveat is that this was a short notice fight, but I still got Navajo Sterling by decision. Next up, we have Alexander Roddick versus Marcin Tybura. Now, you might know the name Alexander Roddick, and you might be wondering why. Why do I know that name? And it's because he had one highlight reel in the last 7 years. Yes, that's right. Back in 2019, he had one head kick, and every time he has a fight, I bet you in this one, I bet you money, like actual money, that whenever he's doing his walkout, whenever doing like the promo for the fight, they will use that head kick. Okay, I promise you that. But other than that, he's hasn't won in 5.5 years. My bad. 5.5 years. That's right. 5.5 years. This man has not won. Okay, even the entire Biden administration, he hasn't won. And people are going around saying, "Oh, Roddick's like the next coming of Hitler. He's gonna take over the heavyweight now." it's just not true. I don't think he is. But Marcin Tybura is just a fat Polish man. Like you cannot tell me that you walking into a subway, you don't see Marcin Tybura there. You know, he will like he cut you in line. So that's why. But I will say I do like hate. Well, I do want to hate watch this fight just to see Martin Tybura knock out Alexander Roddick. But Tybura is kind of a can. He's 40 years old. I don't think there's much left for him. So I'm going Alexander Roddick by KO. Sadly, I want Martin Tybura to win, but I do think Alexander will win. Anyways, the next fight up is Dusko Torovic versus Robzilla Valentine. Yes, he decided to name himself Robzilla. That's crazy in my opinion. But anyways, Dusko Torovic has um one win and two losses like in past three, but that one win versus Jose Medina. Jose Medina, that's over. He's like the most alleged MMA fighter in the entire history. So I do not count that win. And when you go over just call Torovic's entire resume, it's not that impressive. He's being cans. And Robert Valentine, while not having the most impressive record of all time, has like 100% finish rate. He will either knock you out or get knocked out. But overall, I think Robert Valentine will win this. I think there's a very obvious grappling route for him. He is a broader though. He's still broader. But I will take Robert Valentine, Robzilla. Unfortunately, I did not want to pick a guy named Robzilla to win, but I don't think he'll win via submission, actually. So, well, on to the next one. We have Vlasto Crepo, which it is, versus Gilbert Urbina. No, Gilbert Urbina has fought Medic before. We watched that fight. He did knock down Medic, okay, pretty badly, actually. But then proceeded to get knocked down and finish himself in the next second. Crazy thing. And Vasa Crepo is a brawler. Like, just look at him, okay? He looks like the angriest member of the Aryan Brotherhood. You don't get those kind of tattoos and like not just go out there swinging. But he is an uppercomer. I think that he has some major power behind his hand, and like Kubota definitely does have power in his hands. I don't think he'll finish. I don't think he can finish Crepo, but he can definitely not give him some trouble. But I want to hand it over to Crepo, okay? In round one knockout. Gilbert Abina is kind of a can, used to feed prospects that, and pattern you've noticed now that most of these are knockout. And I feel the reason for that is that Dana White realized how bad of a card this is, so he's just like, just put it. He realized how bad of a card this is, so he just put a bunch of knockouts artists, so at least he can finish faster. Anyways, next up we have Noah Gugnow, my goodness, versus Milo Janic. I have no idea how to say his name, Loki. But Noah Gugnow is a pretty technical fighter. He's French, so you know how French people fight. Very technical, very clean, good defense, and I'm not very convinced by Malo Jan Itchy. I'm just not very convinced by him. His defense is very questionable. And his last opponent before getting signed on to UFC this debut, he looked like he might have been allergic to protein. Okay, he seemed like if you asked him to like a bench press, he looked at you confused. But Milo was like getting not outstruck, but was giving a hard time. But then like he decided to shoot in. His opponent took him down and then decided just to crawl up into a ball. So that's very fun. It's just what happened there. So I'm not very convinced by honestly. I think that Noah Gongno Frenchness will prevail and let him get the at least decision over Milo. I don't think Now is not really that much of a power puncher, but he is very technical. So I'm going Noah Gun now. With this decision. And on to our next fight. We have Tofig versus Ludovid Clean. I don't know how to say it. But these these two guys are very interesting. Okay, um, Tofik Musayev looks like the angriest man you've seen. Look at him, but I don't think that he will win. I think that Ludovic Kane has a better striking, has a better finishing power. You know, he has more power behind his hands. Um, Especially with grappling, I think he will be able to. I think grappling will be a major factor in this. And you both know that. But another thing I want to say right now is that I don't think that Ludovic Klein is that big. You know, so I don't know how far he'll get. Especially since I don't know, I've seen a lot of people say like, "Oh, he's the next one. He's in the prospect of the year," but I don't see that. But anyways, I'm not gonna waste one of your time. Ludovic Klein will win, via knockout, third round. Next up we have Michael Oliveira versus Obon Elliott. Now, this one was I'm just gonna say Michael Oliveira is definitely gonna win via knockout. Probably in the first round, to be honest. Michael, I've seen film of him, and Michael Oliveira has a bit of a questionable defense. You know, he's Brazilian. You know, his knockout or being knocked out over there, but but he is very strong. And Obo Elliott is called the Welsh gangster. Okay, he calls himself a Welsh gangster, and then like goes to war with someone named Val Woodburn. Okay, that's a very Welsh gangster. You know, that's like being called like the New Hampshire gangster. Like, ooh, so scary. Like, you just get that changed. But I'm just going with Michael Oliveira via KO first round. Very straightforward. Um, Next up we have Borislav Nikolovic versus Mark Volog Vologdin. Sorry. Um, you know, Mark Vologin is just like a big ball. Okay, I'll say that. He's not fat in any way. Like he seems. This is like the only case I would say that like if he had less muscle, I think he'd do better. Like he's so big that he's not big. He's 5'3", okay, but muscle wise he's so big that I do not think he is physically capable of making 125. Okay, yeah, I think he's undersized for 125 anyways. You know, this is a 6-inch height advantage for Borislav. You know, and Mark Wallagan, he does not have like the most impressive defense. You know, like he just came off of a draw and lost in his MMA debut. So overall, I do think that Borislav will just like jab him at range. I don't know how tight it will be, but if he doesn't get the KO, I'll be very surprised. But I do want him to get KO, but I think that right now when I'm thinking about it, I think that Borislav will get the decision win over Vologdin. Sorry. Um, you know, I think he's a more technical striker. He's longer. He'll be able to reach him. You know, and he'll be able to defend like any like distant closing. He'll Mark will try to get. You know, so anyways, on to the next one. We have Bogdan Grad versus Dennis Bazooka. Now, Bogdan, I think, will win this just based on the fact that his head and he has no chin. Okay, he has no chin. He has a very small head. He looks like the guy in the waiting room in Beetlejuice. Okay, and you're telling, I think that he will win this. You know, Bogdan is this case of a round one fighter. I like to call them, where he'll go in there, he'll spam wrestling, he'll spam like spinning kill kicks, like big power shots in the first round, like try to wrestle you down, you know. And if he can't get anything, then his cardio just goes way down, and he can't do anything for a second round. But his defense is just not that good. Like he has 3 losses in a row. He's been submitted twice or KO'd twice. My bad. I think that um, Bogdan will get this done in the first round. Um, and I'll make a prediction right now. I think he will spin. First of all, I think that Bogdan will at least spin one spinning heel kick. But second off, I think that he will get it actually in the first round. Crazy prediction, but that's the kind of thing that Bogdan does. So I don't think Bogdan, very bald and very small head. Winners, we got next up we have Mateus Rebecki versus Kyle Polek. Now, I'm not very impressed with a guy named Kyle, but especially against someone named Rebecki. Okay, good. Respect Rebecki. I'm just calling down over. That's how you say his name. Is a very good power puncher. He looking at it. He has 9 KOs and 7 submissions. Okay, he's not a bad fighter, but he's a brawler. He'll go in there and give you a war. I'm surprised he's still in the sport. Like, look how much he's lost his hair. Like he needs to stop doing this just for his hairline. Also, he just needs to let it go at this point. But Mateus is a very power punchy heavy. We'll go to war with you. I don't think that Kyle Polek will really be able to handle it. I've seen some of his tape. Very brief, I will say that. But Polek just um has good defense. But I think Mateus will be able to smother him. So I'll take Respecki via round 2 knockout. It'll probably be a fun fight too. I hope it is. Respecki seems like to give us a war every time. So to line up the mood of this card. But next up we have Nina Milosevic, versus Haley Cohen. Now, we love women's MMA and definitely know who Nina Milosevic and Haley Cohen are. We do. But I think that, but I do have to go with Nina Milosevic. Haley Cohen lost to Alex. What's her name? I forgot her name, but Alex Pereira's sister, whatever Pereira. Me a crazy knee, and it wasn't even that good as I've seen. So I do have Milosevic via decision. We will love this fight. We will root for both of them. So next up we have second to last fight, by the way. We have Jovan Nika versus Alexander Popek. No, this is a pretty short notice fight. Jovan's last opponent dropped out, not dropped out, had to put out. And so Alexander Popek is a natural 205. You can kind of tell that in the specs right here. Jovan does kind of like bigger. Also, Jovan is, I think, like the better. He's pretty good all around, to be honest. He has good striking, good grappling, as I've seen. He has been fighting just like big boys, but I do think that like either way that he's a pretty good prospect. He's 10 years Alexander's junior, so I do think that Jovan will win this. I don't know if by KO. I will say by KO. I don't know what round. I think Jovan is very unpredictable, but also that I've seen that much tape on Popek. So I'm just going Jovan via KO. And on to the next one. We have to find this is actually the final one. And it's another great, amazing fight. We women's MMA. We know who Marina Spasic and Stephanie Luciano is. And like I don't even know what to say about this. These guys are pretty evenly matched. But I will say that Stephanie Luciano does kind of look like just an average NPC. I don't know who this is. If you put them in the room with like literally any other white woman, and she's not white, she's like Brazilian, but put her in the room, I would not be able to tell her apart from anyone else. And Maria Spevic is just like smiling too much. All right, I'm sorry, Marina, but like it's just a creepy look. So I'm gonna just like cut to the chase. I think Stephanie, the NPC, via decision. And yeah, that's the end of the card. Overall, I think that Dana White was just like sitting at a blackjack table of gambling with the neck boys, laughing their asses off, like saying that I can't believe people are still fighting for us. We've only paid them like $5,000. And then he got a call and was like, "We have to make a new UFC card." And he was like, "I'm doing Belgrade, whatever. Just get a bunch of people to knock each other out, and we should be good." And continue to laugh with the young boys gambling all of his money away. So that's about it. I hope I get the main event right. Um, I love you all. Subscribe to the channel, please, and tell me anything else you would like to see from me. AMJ out.